Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Curious, Denny, 24. I'm seeing patterns everywhere I look. That includes in fantasy, where we now have 3 weeks of data as we head into week 4. We have panic patterns, we have production patterns, we have bank examiner patterns. Things are happening around here. We're going to talk about the Monday Night Football doubleheader, where Jayden Daniels showed out as a superstar. Scary Terry welcomed himself to the season, albeit on 6 targets. The Bengals never punted and yet lost. Curious. The Jaguars got absolutely annihilated yet again, looking more and more ready for Father Bill Belichick, Denny. Father Bill starting to take out. Come on, that's happening.
It is happening. Poor Trevor, man. It's over.
Don't even fight it. Then some of the news of the week. Panthers offensive revival. Dolphins offensive doldrums. Jordan Love hopefully returning on Sunday. CMC making a mysterious visit to Germany. Mark Andrews in his week 4 zero ball, as Kyle Dvorchak might say. And a quick look ahead to Thursday Night Football. But Denny, I didn't prepare you for what we're going to talk right off the top of the show. I just have like a little bit of bone to pick with you. Maybe, quote, call you out. You call yourself a fantasy analyst, Denny. And yet here it is, week 3, week 4. And I see most of the best players in fantasy football. You didn't just simply draft all the best players in fantasy football, and I'm wondering what that is about. I'm heading into week 4. How come you don't have every single one of the best players in fantasy football on your team?
I should have just done that in hindsight, and instead of taking players who are hurt or bad. Yes. Sometimes both.
Oftentimes both.
It's something we live and learn, and next year I'm hoping to actually get some good players on my teams, and we'll see how that goes.
Denny, one of the reasons I have good players this year is that I always do modified 0 RB, where I'm usually like three of my first 4 picks, usually receiver, sometimes only 2 of 4. I always, this is not a bit, I really do just always go best player available. And it seemed like it was a good year to not have a slogan. If I was ever going to adopt a slogan, it would be 0 RB. I am a pseudo believer. But yeah, all my teams are wrecking. And it's because I'm going to check my notes here. It's because I have running backs.
And that helps. What you're saying is that you have Saquon Barkley.
No, actually, Denny. In fact, I think without exaggeration, I think about 10 separate times I was on the clock and managed redraft leagues. And 10 times out of 10, I don't like to have all the same players because of how important injuries are in this game. I think 10 times out of 10, I said, listen, I know he's risky, but I'm going Achane over Barkley. And I made that exact decision essentially every time I selected in the second round of fantasy draft. And really hoping it pays off.
In doing so, you knew that choice hinged entirely on the health of Tua.
Yeah, I know, man. We'll get to that in a minute.
It's So I will say, just anecdotally, I have a couple teams where I have the following trio of receivers, right? Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, and DK Metcalf. And that has worked, okay? So far, we're knocking on all the wood.
We were the same wavelength. I have Jefferson and DK Metcalf in almost every single league.
And, so that's working out. Other leagues where I went with A.J. Brown over Puka Nacua. I went with A.J. Brown over a lot of guys, honestly. That's over for me. I was very aggressive on Deebo Samuel, over in all those leagues. So you make your bets. And honestly, I actually posted about this on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, where I said Saquon Barkley was a bet against Jalen Hurts, and I would have said in August that's a bad bet. It turns out it was a good bet because of the following: wide receiver injuries for the Eagles. And also Jalen Hurts is slow and has a weak arm. So I think that he's physically very limited.
He's more limited. I wouldn't say he's limited. He's more limited than we're used to seeing. I say he's limited.
Like watching Jayden Daniels is like watching Jalen Hurts if he were fast and had.
That's because he's never taken a hit. He's going to take a hit now. He took so many hits at LSU, as we love to point out. He somehow hasn't been hit through 3 games. And
he somehow hasn't been hit. I watched that game with my dad last night. My dad's just learning who Jayden Daniels is, and he was cringing. He said, "This kid's taking way too many hits." He was getting walloped every other play.
I didn't see that. Everything looks bad if you remember it, as you know I like to say.
I mean, he's still small.
I didn't see the hits. I only saw the runs, the rainmaker touchdowns. By the way, kudos to us. We told everyone, like, I would simply draft Jayden Daniels instead of drafting Anthony Richardson. Only decision that mattered in fantasy football. That's why I'm not. It's because I did.
Hey,
that.
Listen, if you fire enough takes out there, you're bound to, get some right. And that's what we've done.
You are. Jayden Daniels, superstar, super mode.
We also said Malik Neighbors potentially leads the league in targets, and that's happening.
It is happening. I had one final receiver take I wanted to get out there. Justin Jefferson, I bought the dip in every single league. As I pointed out before, I didn't, though, foresee that the problem would be that the Vikings were too good. And it's going to be a struggle for him to get 100 yards because every week at halftime is 27-0, and he has 6 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Production we like and will take, but we're not getting 11 for 122 and 2.
Right. Brian Flores has ruined that little fantasy we had in our heads of consistent 180-yard games from Jefferson.
Brian Flores is kind of underrated in just the overall ruining of NFL football, and that he's limiting the volume for Justin Jefferson. And he's like the main proprietor. Proprietor of the quote exotic blitzes.
Right.
Where QB is like, please just tell me who's blitzing.
Right.
It's so much easier. Yes. Point to the linebacker. That guy's coming. And
everybody's doing the simulated blitzes, as the kids are calling them, sim blitzes, and no one knows which guys are coming and which guys are going, and then you have Gardner Minshew taking 11 sacks. So it's tough. It's tough on these guys.
I've seen a lot of 7 sack totals, 8 sack totals. Even Sam Darnold, as I pointed out, has taken 7 sacks his past 2 games, which is a little bit of a red flag in the Sam Darnold celebrations. I would say seeing ghost Darnold comes back if he has to ever play one time trailing, like Sam Darnold trailing once will be quite telling. That might happen this weekend in Green Bay against the Packers. The Commanders never trailed once, Denny, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Extremely curious. A 38-33 Commanders. Is that right? Did I write down the right score? Is that actually 38?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Wow. 38-33. A lot of points in Cincinnati last night. Paycor Stadium, the core, as they're calling it, Denny. The absolute worst stadium name I've ever heard in my entire life.
No. Aquashore.
No, Paycor is worse. Paycor. Isn't it Acrashore, by the way, too? It's Acrashore.
No, it's not Aquashore.
No, it's not Aquashore.
It was like a water company.
First NFL game since 1940 where there was 0 turnovers and 0 punts. That's a real stat in this Commanders-Bengals game. But the only thing anyone's talking about, understandably so, Jayden Daniels superstar mode, Jayden Daniels supernova mode. Going forward, Denny, Jayden Daniels is QB underscore what? QB what for Jayden Daniels?
So I have been telling folks online when they will ask me, and I feel generous enough to offer my start sit opinion, and on my Friday shows for start sits. I've said this since week 1. I'm not starting anybody except for Josh Allen over Jayden Daniels.
Really?
Who would you start over him?
Lamar still easily. Probably, honestly, even still Hurts.
No, I wouldn't start Hurts.
Maybe Kyler. Kyler's not good, but I would maybe start Kyler over Jayden Daniels occasionally.
I mean, like the thing is, like if you have Jayden Daniels, you don't have Josh Allen most likely, right? So the answer is just to start Jayden Daniels. Like I had some folks asking me, well, like Jared Goff is in a good match. Come on, please. Yeah.
Well, honestly, get out of here with that, please.
Please.
What
else? Who else had a good matchup last week? Like Justin Fields. I get that just a lot. Justin Fields. Come on.
Please tell me more about Derek Carr's good matchup. I'd love to hear more about Derek Carr's good matchup.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. Derek Carr's path to a good game is throwing 4 75-yard touchdowns. Jayden Daniels' path to a good game is completing 11 passes and running for 100 yards and a touchdown. So, come on. Which one is easier?
Geno Smith is a really good matchup this week. At the Dome in Detroit, folks.
No, you're starting Jayden. You're starting Jayden. Stop.
Jayden Daniels, Joe Burrow is the only pocket passer actually doing anything. Are we starting Jayden Daniels at Arizona over Joe Burrow at Carolina this week, Denny?
I mean, Burrow's, that's a really good spot. But I'm starting Jayden Daniels.
I can't even ask Mahomes anymore. Mahomes, I'm wavering. QB9 so far in my initial week 4 rankings for Patty Mahomes. Oh, Patty Mahomes is just out there throwing around the old potato sack.
Okay.
and I don't know. And not going well. It's not going well.
I have to share this little stat since we're on Mahomes real quick. Here's what the mainstream media won't say. Those Chiefs are 2% under their expected drop back rate this year. This time last year, they were 9% over. The year before that, they were 10% over after 3 weeks. So this is a new sort of very boring, very bad version of the Kansas City offense.
It's the experimental thing too. It's like, whatever, we've won back-to-back Super Bowls. We could easily just win another Super Bowl going 7% pass rate over expected. But let's just see how conservative, how boring we can get. I think, honestly, the Chiefs might be just seeing how many different styles of football they have in them. And they already know they can do the pass rate over expected. Pat Mahomes can throw 45 times in a sleep. They're trying to see, you know what? Can we grind out a game with a fullback as our lead back? And a fullback who's going to cause fantasy Twitter to tear itself apart to whether he's actually a fullback or not. What can we really get away with? And the answer is just everything. The Chiefs never even play well, and they easily win every game, no matter what. And they are in the middle of a science experiment where they're cruising to the Super Bowl this year.
Well,
the Bills look amazing. Josh Allen looks amazing. The Chiefs are cruising to a Super Bowl.
This offense is enough to support Rashid Rice, and that's it right now. I mean, Xavier Worthy will get his once in a while, but he's really not commanding targets. He's not really part of there is no downfield passing game. I was going to say he's not part of downfield, but there is no downfield passing game. And Travis Kelce, I mean, watching this guy sort of slink around that and just hope to God to find an open spot where he can turn around.
That is what he is doing.
I mean,
he's like going around from trash can to trash can. Surely there's a donut in this trash can.
And then to watch Mahomes sit in the pocket and pat the ball and look and be like, come on, Trav. Come on, buddy. Turn around. Come on. Get to the spot. I mean, this offense stinks. Let's be honest about it.
No, that's the thing, is that it doesn't stink. They're just messing around. Because that's how could you not just mess around if you easily win the Super Bowl? Nothing even means anything. The first game they play is going to mean anything. It's going to be like a January 11th. Of course they're messing around. September 20th. They lose on Christmas to the Raiders. It doesn't matter at all. They easily win the Super Bowl.
Andy Reid coached a horrible game the other night, and they still easily won.
I'm telling you, man, they've got the aura now too, where they just can't lose. No matter how many poor decisions you make, you're so enthralled of the Chiefs, you will make a worse decision and you will lose. And that's how it always went with the Patriots. The Patriots just get lucky. It's because they're so amazing that everyone basically does bad things to themselves. I do. Yeah, we can move on now, but I do want to say, obviously, the Chiefs will win a third straight Super Bowl this year. It goes without saying. Goes without saying that Scary Terry's back. 100-yard game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Denny, only 4 catches, though. Only 6 targets. The big plays that have been missing, it seems like, for years, though, for Terry McLaurin. Is that something to build on for fantasy managers, or is the lack of volume just going to be too pervasive of a concern to really get him in the top 24, Denny? What say you on Scary Terry? Yeah, I mean, last night was cool. It was confirmation that once in a while Terry McLaurin can hit in this offense. But, look, I'm not going to let you guys be excited, okay? You're excited last night. You got to stop being happy about that immediately, because Washington, after 3 weeks, 26th in pass attempts. Terry McLaurin, he had an 18% target per route run share. So he was targeted on 18% of his route runs in the first 2 weeks. That only ticked up to 20% in week 3. So that wasn't a huge change. He had an average depth of target, Pat, of 26 against the Bengals. He has 70% of the team's air yards on the season. This is a profile of a very volatile receiving option who will frustrate you as often as he will make you happy. I'll say the contrarian take, the pro take, is only Jayden Daniels' 3rd career start. They're trying to figure out what he's comfortable doing at the NFL level. He's on the road against not a great Bengals defense, but a good defensive coordinator in Lou Anarumo. He hit the touchdown pass he hit to Terry McLaurin is one of the most insane passes you'll see all season. So he's expanding already, the range of outcomes, the range of what's possible. Jayden Daniels, if you're trying to find a bullish take on Terry McLaurin, and that is the take. They're like, okay, wow, the kid, quote unquote, the rookie can actually do a lot more than we thought, a lot quicker than we thought. And that this is kind of just the beginning and kind of just the baseline.
Yeah.
I really do think that is possible for a Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin
Sure.
outcomes.
I mean, I think, we might be seeing a similar thing in Chicago with, Caleb Williams going well over 300, connecting with Roma Dunze for a bunch of yards and catches and whatnot. So, these things do change. The volume is probably just never going to be there for McLaurin, but you knew that going in.
It's never going to be there until it is what I'm telling you.
Well, volume as in like, okay, like we're going to say, 34% target share. That's 7 targets.
We'll see. There's a chance this is just the beginning.
Right.
You don't even know.
I hope you're right.
You don't even know, man. This is just the beginning. Open your eyes, man. Open them up. Please open them up. Yeah, he fell asleep while I was talking.
Yeah, I'm a little sleepy.
Denny, anything to say about the Cincinnati Bengals who they're making the computers go burr. EPA likes them. Normal human rate stats like them. Yet they can't win a single football game, Denny. What's going on?
Just some quick notes on the Cincinnati backfield in week 3. Pretty interesting, actually. Zack Moss, 12 rushes to 7 rushes for Chase Brown. Chase Brown averaged 9 yards per carry against Washington. 4 of his 7 rushes went for over 10 yards, talking about Chase Brown. And Chase Brown is now second in the league in rush yards after contact per rush. So, he's good. He seems to be good, and that could matter at some point. I'm not sure when. Moss, you're getting back to Moss for a second against Washington. He ran 29 routes to only 6 routes for Brown. Of course, Moss had 5 targets. I think it could be a little bit of a reverse of what we were expecting back in the summer, where I think that Zack Moss maybe could be trending toward the pass catching guy, and and Chase Brown could be more of like the between the tackles guy, which sounds weird because he's much smaller, but he's so explosive. I mean, he really ripped him off last night.
And just maybe they trust the veteran more in pass protection and to just secure the ball, not drop it. I mean, Chase Brown, he had the big play, but it was a wide open screen last year that no one bothered to cover, things of that nature. And I don't think that can hold forever because why would Zack Moss be the pass catching back over Chase Brown? It actually doesn't really make sense.
It is a little weird. It's a little weird, but I was surprised to look into the numbers and see how efficient Chase Brown has been on very limited carry volume. Like I'm not talking about targets. I'm talking about actual rushes.
The Bengals should look into winning a single game. Maybe this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. Kyle Dvorak, go check it out in person. We'll be right back. Gonna take a short break. It's a battle of AFC powers in Baltimore when Josh Allen and the Bills head south to face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. Man, so hopefully I'm not speaking too soon. I was about to say the Ravens. Finally, a team that will make Josh Allen play 60 minutes of football. I have Josh Allen in my main home league. It's a quarterback-heavy league, long story. And he's amazing every week for 2 quarters, and then they don't have to try.
Yeah, I do feel bad for you that you got 34 points out of your quarterback this week.
Hey, no, it was in this league. To be honest, it was I believe 51. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna cry for you after this show.
Yeah. So don't worry. I want 60 minutes of Josh Allen though, so we can show this league who's boss, Denny. And yeah, the Buffalo Bills showed the Jacksonville Jaguars who was boss this night. Really sent a message to the entire league. Through 3 weeks, the Bills have been the best team in the NFL. Say not particularly close, at least the most convincing team in the NFL. Haven't truly been tested yet. Week 4, Baltimore, they're gonna be truly tested on NBC and Peacock. But I mean, I guess let's start with the Jaguars because the Bills good. That's an easy storyline. Jags bad though, bad and getting worse. They were 8-3, infamously so last year and missed the playoffs. The losing, just continuing. Heading into the season, really, honestly, no positives so far for the Jags, especially for the Jags offense. Trevor Lawrence, 2 total touchdowns, is yet to surpass 220 yards in passing in a single start. He is in the regression files, though, that you have up on the website. What, if any, are the positives we can cling to through 3 really bad starts for Trevor Lawrence?
Well, yeah, I mean, his touchdown rate, the reason he's in the regression files, and I took no pleasure in putting him in there because I just don't see a path to actual upside for him. But 2% touchdown rate is, well below his career rate, which is still not really high. It's around 4%. But so that should bounce back. The Jags being in constant negative game script is actually a negative because Lawrence typically doesn't perform well in that sort of game script when teams know that there's obvious drop back situations coming.
He started getting hammered for sacks last night and a few like really critical downs they had, and it's because they knew they had to pass.
I will say usage wise, I mean, really, really a good sign for Christian Kirk. Ran almost 100% of the routes, 96% from the slot. So lots of 3 receiver usage for the Jags after not so much of that in the first 2 weeks. Christian Kirk caught 8 of 10 targets for 79 yards. He was the clear number one. Well, the 1A, because Brian Thomas saw 9 targets, caught 5 for 48. Gabe Davis is not going to be a thing. That's obvious. But if the Christian Kirk thing continues, and maybe that has to do, Pat, with Evan Ingram being out. If that's the case, then I guess this is going to be short-lived. But I think you could start to feel way more comfortable starting Christian Kirk if he's going to have 100% of the routes and operate exclusively in the slot.
I do wonder if it is just because of the injuries, though, and because they seem intent on not having Christian Kirk out there like every snap, even though they paid him $1 bajillion. He is their best receiver. Brian Thomas might be their best receiver, but Christian Kirk is their most experienced receiver, the guy they need the most. At Houston this week, too. Texans defense has been maybe not as good as advertised, but it's still a good defense. Strikes me as more negative game script for the Jags. Yet Trevor Lawrence is just not doing well. We got to rethink the idea of garbage time in general. Like these days, garbage time just means, all right, guys taking 6 drive killing sacks. Like you're not even getting any. Eli Manning is gone. You got to give up the idea of garbage time reduction existing. Eli is not walking through that door.
I mean, sometimes it's okay to take a 3-step drop back and just let it go. Like you don't have to just sit and wait for something to develop 50 yards downfield. Like just throw the ball, Trevor. Once in a while.
If you want to know how to do garbage time, pull up. There's a 7.5-hour YouTube compilation of Ben Roethlisberger throwing 7-yard passes.
Yeah, that's it.
Time. Just throw 7-yard passes. Get 347 of the most empty yards you've ever seen, but 2 touchdowns in the process. Call yourself a QB1 and be done.
Look, here's what you look up on YouTube: Matthew Stafford Lions garbage time.
Yes.
And you see 440 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yes. Or Eli Manning garbage time parentheses real. Like Eli Manning had 478 yards in a game the Giants lost 42-29.
Please,
what was going on back in 2012?
We don't get any of that anymore.
No, they just get sacked now. Because it's like every scheme is so complex. Like even a garbage time, like no. We gotta have 3 pre-snap motions.
Yeah.
You gotta roll out then and like plant your feet, and then you have to let Von Miller just wreck you. You have to let Von Miller just absolutely wreck you, and then you can pass.
We somehow have a triple play action down 35-2, 35-3.
Yeah, they should look very powerfully into not doing that. We should look very powerfully, Denny, into is Dalton Kincaid good? Doesn't look like it.
Well, he probably is, but the usage is.
He probably is based on what? He used to be Mr. Famous. Dalton Kincaid had 1 good game in college. Now you're saying he's good?
No, I'm saying like he's clearly like better than the average tight end. Okay, but this Buffalo offense. So I did want to say real quick, we got a little confirmation last night that the Jags are in fact a pass funnel because I have talked about how insanely run heavy the Buffalo offense has been through 2 weeks, right? Well, in week 3, they were 5% over their expected dropback rate, which came out of nowhere unless you realize that the Jags are really stuffing the run and are susceptible to the pass. Now, Dalton Kincaid, Pat, only ran a route on 50% of Josh Allen's dropbacks against the Jaguars.
No good.
A guy named Dawson Knox was at 53% route rate. Kincaid was targeted on 31% of his routes, which is really high, really strong. So I guess there was a plan to get him involved, but man, that route rate is not good. Maybe there's some garbage time situations involved in the reason he wasn't way over 50%. But I mean, you have a major problem here with an offense that wants to be run first, with a quarterback who destroys pass volume with his own rushing. I just feel like Kincaid's going to have a really tough time to get there most weeks.
It's for different reasons. These two players aren't getting home in fantasy. When I look at Dalton Kincaid, I'm just beginning to see Great Lakes Kyle Pitts, man. This Great Lakes Kyle Pitts is all Kyle Pitts is out there, actually. He just they don't target him because he can't get open.
Oh, man. On that pass interference against the Chiefs, that's the one that wasn't called. Kyle Pitts has got to sell that, man.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because I don't know, man. I thought I would swallow the whistle in that situation. Like, dude, I'm sorry, you weren't catching this pass anyway. Because look at how you're standing.
Yeah,
you barely jumped.
Sell it. Yeah, exactly. When you feel the guy jump into you, throw yourself back and be like, "Oh God, I was hit."
No,
and you get the flag.
Yeah, I don't know. I totally agree. I totally agreed with the ref swallowing the whistle there. I didn't have the courage to tweet it. I do have the courage now, though, to scream it on our podcast because it's harder for people.
No. It should have been called, but I'm just saying,
it shouldn't even have been called. He wasn't going to catch it. The guy was playing the ball better than Pitts did, even though he was running into Pitts.
I'm just saying, Pitts has got to want it more. I think that's a running theme with Pitts. Does he want it? I don't know.
What any other takeaways from Jaguars, Bills, trends in the Bills receiver core, blah blah blah?
No, not really. I mean, Shakir, I guess is the wide receiver one right now. I did see that Josh Allen took a pretty big dig at Stefon Diggs after the game.
Yeah, what did he say? I saw this morning. I was perusing game logs. And
he said
ESPN has videos on the side, and it was Stephen A. : Diggs must respond to Allen.
No, really, he said that.
Yes.
The enemy is speaking very kindly to Stefon Diggs. Yeah, Josh Allen said it's just nice to have a bunch of receivers who don't care about stats, who don't care about touchdowns. He's only talking about one guy, and that guy's in Houston complaining about stats and touchdowns.
The guy he's talking about is, of course, Kelvin Benjamin.
Wow.
Who I think played with Josh Allen at the beginning of his career. I could be wrong. Denny, we were so wrong about the Dolphins. This is because Tua got hurt, and it's kind of ruined the entire thing. Yeah, we weren't wrong. We were right, but we're really wrong right now that they'd be producing fantasy points because it looked so hellaciously over in week 3 against the Seahawks. Week 4, up in the air. Skylar Thompson seems on the wrong side of questionable. We really don't know who's going to be facing the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Just give us the state of the Dolphins offense that we thought was going to be printing money in fantasy football, as instead has bank examiners nationwide breathlessly waiting by their phone. Please ring.
Yeah. Yeah, I took Tyreek Hill over CMC a lot this summer and felt really good about it. And it turns out both answers were incorrect.
CMC's gone to Germany. Tyreek's gone to Antarctica.
And you can't blame him after last week. By the way, you mentioned the Dolphins play the Titans on Monday night. They don't play the Seahawks for the second straight week. Yeah, Come on, Pat.
The Seahawks are also playing on Monday night. It's against the Lions, though. I got it.
Oh, really? A doubleheader? I like the doubleheaders. Dolphins offense last week against Seahawks. I looked into it. Almost completely abandoned 3 receiver sets in week 3. They shifted hard to 21 personnel, which is 2 running backs, 1 tight end, and 2 receivers. Just for what that's worth, it puts the Achane and somebody and another running back on the field together a lot. Maybe it'll be Mostert this week. Play action and motion, pre-snap motion were pretty much the same for the Dolphins against the Seahawks. But we actually
that's a problem, man.
Yeah,
you and I talk about Mike McDaniel. Sorry, not adjusting. You can't be doing that stuff when Skylar Thompson's at quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. And so we've seen a lot of really great adjustments this season. Matt LaFleur completely redoing the Packers offense to make Malik Willis go burr. And not to take credit from Willis, who's played fantastic. But, big changes there. Sean McVay, huge overhaul of the Rams offense going into week 3. And they beat the Niners. We did not see that with Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel just said, "Hey, Skylar, you should just simply be Tua." And although Tua, and we've talked, I guess people would call us haters or whatever, but we've talked about how a lot of quarterbacks could probably do what Tua does in this offense, and I still agree with that. Skylar Thompson, not one of them.
He's not.
Tim Boyle, not one of them. Tyler Huntley, not one. So
Tyler Huntley, but it might work for us. Tyler Huntley, we're back in. We're back in.
I stick by it. If you had to choose one, it's easily Tim Boyle here.
I would say Snoop Huntley. It's got to be Snoop. It's got to be Tyler Huntley. So Mike McDaniel, by the way, I know he'd be like, well, we're keeping all the pre-snap bells and whistles because we got to deceive the defense to make things easier on Skyler. No, man, you got to be running like the most vanilla, simple offense. So you just throw wide receiver screens to Tyreek 10 plays in a row. He'll bust one. Do something, anything other than what you're doing. Make one adjustment ever. 2 seasons in a row, your offense totally shut down the stretch. You cannot be running the Tua offense. Pre-snap mode. This is going to get someone open, man. This won't confuse Skyler at all. And Skyler's like crying in the huddle. What's happening? What's going on?
It's not fair. It's not fair to the backup when this happens. I mean, if Matt LaFleur had said, "Hey Malik, go ahead, buddy, go ahead and run Jordan Love's offense," then they would have lost the last 2 games, right? But he didn't. He said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to accentuate your strengths," and they did, and they won. I mean, amazing job.
It is. By the way, I thought you had to be exaggerating on Skylar Thompson until I saw the highlight where he rolled out of the pocket, was not being pressured at all. They were giving like an 8 or 9 yard cushion. No one was open. He could have easily run like a 7 or 8 yard gain, and instead just decided to stand right by the sideline and get wrecked for a sack. I've never seen less awareness in my entire life.
No awareness. You know, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks with no awareness. Producer Adam says it was so hard to watch, and yeah, I covered that game. And it was brutal. This kid is just standing there over and over and over with no idea who is around him at any time. It was the anti-Mahomes. You know how Mahomes has eyes in the back of his head, kind of that sixth sense. Thompson has no idea. I'm telling this kid they cannot roll him out again. I mean, he's hurt, so they won't.
He was like standing there, and the Seahawks like, "Are you sure you want us to sack you?" It's
right.
like, "We will." I will sack you. I'm holding a 2x4. I'm holding a brick bat. I will sack you.
We will drill you right in the ribs.
Are you sure? And he just didn't respond. It's like, all right.
All right. Here we go.
I'm going to wreck you now and apparently injure you and apparently knock you out for week 3. Denny, what am I looking here? I put on my reading glasses. I actually have perfect vision. The Carolina Panthers. So I was skeptical, man, like a little skeptical. Like, listen, I know Andy Dalton's going to be a lot better than Bryce Young. I know Dave Canales was party to Geno and Baker Mayfield's revival, but we tend to overrate this, like how good some of these play callers, some of these coaches, and he immediately made the Panthers one of the best offenses in the NFL when he had a 36-year-old journeyman quarterback. Tell us what we saw from Dave Canales and Andy Dalton in the first game of the post-Bryce Young era.
Yeah, I mean, the EPA machine went burr. Only the Jets, Ravens, and 49ers had a higher EPA per play than the Panthers in week 3. They went from 5% under their expected dropback rate to 3% over, which is a huge shift in philosophy, really. Dalton's ADOT wasn't anything to write home about. It was 6.6, which you would expect from a guy like Dalton. But it really, really works for the pass catchers they have, including Deontay Johnson. Carolina's use of pre-snap motion increased from 25% with Bryce Young to 37% with Andy Dalton. And their use of 3 receiver sets actually fell from 85% to 59%. So what you had is 2 tight ends on the field a lot. That gave a lot of route volume for Tommy Tremble, just to name one guy. And then, the success of the passing game got the defense to back off a little bit and open up running lanes for Chuba Hubbard, who, has been slightly above average, really, in a lot of ways and a lot of nerdy metrics over his career. And he went off against a bad Raiders rush defense. I will say that the game script was perfect for Hubbard to go off. So let's not, expect that sort of thing from him going forward. But it puts everybody in play. The fact that they have a quarterback in Dalton who can sustain drives, who can avoid sacks, right? Who can occasionally hit a big play. He hit a 35-yarder to Xavier Legette, right? That puts everybody in play. You wrote in your column on Monday. I recommend folks go check it out. Dalton's emergence has opened up an entire offense of new fantasy options that we had ignored. We had to ignore them in the first 2 weeks.
And just the 2 stats, one stat really that I cannot get over with Dave Canales and Andy Dalton. So 1 game for Deontay Johnson and Chuba Hubbard under Dave Canales where there's a real quarterback playing. 81st game of Deontay Johnson's career. He sets a career high for receiving yards. 52nd game of Chuba Hubbard's career. He sets a career high for yards per scrimmage. And this is the first game with Dave Canales, basically, if we throw out weeks 1 and 2. It's hard to overstate how big of an impact Dave Canales is making on this offense.
I was trying to pump the brakes a little bit on the Deontay steam before this week 3 game against the Raiders. But I think that the way that he made him the centerpiece, like Dave Canales said back in July, he said, look, he is the centerpiece of this offense, right? And we sort of shrugged because it was like, well, Bryce Young's the quarterback, so who cares? But now I think it matters. So I'm just talking about, how he's used with Bryce Young in there in week 1 and 2. Deontay Johnson saw a target on 22% of his routes. With Dalton, it was 36% of his routes. That's a huge difference. 36% route target per route rate run, whatever it is. That's awesome. Like that makes Deontay Johnson top 12 in PPR going forward.
No. I was sorry. I was zoned out. I was trying to think of what I was going to bring up. No, God, no. Top 12? No. Maybe top 24.
Wow.
I got him. Actually, not true. Not maybe. I have him wide receiver 20 this week, actually. That's about as high as he ever ascended with the Steelers. I guess he kind of got on the wide receiver 1-2 borderline. We have to remember it is Andy Dalton. They do have some young players they're going to eventually want to get a look at. Top 24 is where we're kind of starting. Top 20 this week is where I've got him.
I reject that premise. Just we'll see who's right.
Well, when you say top 12, I mean, you're saying that you're going to end up putting him ahead of someone like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison, Brandon Ayuk. Those are the guys going to hang out on the wide receiver 1-2 borderline.
All right.
I'm not really ready to put
but I reject the thing where they're going to want to look at young players. The Panthers are going to make the playoffs. They're the best team in the NFC South.
Please stop.
What? They are.
No, they're not.
The
best team in the South. I mean, this 1 week ago, we're like, well, we have to admit it. The Saints are unstoppable. And
the Saints are not going to make the playoffs. They're going to tank so hard it'll make your head spin. They lost their center today. They're already banged up.
Center, who cares? I mean,
all right. Derek Carr is going to be in absolute hell for the rest of the season. It's going to be terrible. Saints fans, I hope you enjoyed yourself in week 1 and 2 because it's over from here.
I hate to be this guy because anyway. Well, guess what? Someone's going to get hurt. I just don't see how Andy Dalton navigates 13. I'm dead serious. How he gets hurt every time he plays now. He's one of those guys. He stayed healthy 1 game. There's no way Andy Dalton can navigate 14 more games staying 100% healthy. Or he's going to miss time. I feel like it's a certainty.
I think he's as likely to get hurt as any other quarterback in the league.
I really don't. I don't think so. I'm telling you, man, something happens when you switch to backup mode. You cannot stay healthy the same way.
Yeah,
this is a very scientific theory that
I'm very bullish on this Panthers offense. I think Leggett. Okay, so we should mention
the Panthers are still getting dead last in the AFC South. By the way,
no, they're winning the South. They're going to the playoffs. Panthers fans, I'm one of you. I'm on board.
They're getting dead last.
All you had to do was get rid of your number 1 pick from last year, and you're good. By the way, we got to stop drafting quarterbacks number 1 overall. Got to stop. Okay.
What?
No, gotta stop. It doesn't matter how good a quarterback. The coach matters. The quarterback doesn't matter.
Let's draft the fake Josh Allen instead. Did he go number 1? I don't think he was number 1. Who was the guy? Trayvon Walker. We gotta take Trayvon Walker number 1. I'd much rather take a quarterback flyer than take. I would rather not own an NFL team than take Trayvon Walker number 1 overall.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know where I stand on that. But okay, getting back, Adam Thielen out for 4 weeks with a hamstring, right? So that should open up things for Xavier Leggett, who I really, really like with Andy Dalton, who they actually had a lot of second team snaps together in training camp. Leggett.
There's a reason for that, though.
So I ignore Pat's hating right now. Panthers fans, listen, you and me, as a longtime Panthers fan, I'm in on Leggett. I'm in on Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks. The machine will go burr until further notice.
I can't wait to get in on the guy, the first round pick who couldn't get first team reps in training camp. Seems like a really great idea.
Oh man, I've never wanted somebody to score a touchdown so bad.
I actually like Xavier Leggett. I mean, I don't. He's got a horrible. He still has a mega bust profile, but he also is playing with Dave Canales.
Not with Andy Dalton.
Dave Canales too can actually maybe make a Xavier Leggett actually work. We're going to talk about if CMC. Never mind. We're going to talk about CMC. I was about to do an inappropriate segue. We're going to talk about him, though, when we come right back after this. Find out if the United States can continue its dominance at the President's Cup, this week when golf's biggest stars face off at the Royal Montreal Golf Club. Watch Thursday through Sunday on NBC, Golf Channel, and Peacock. Denny, you feeling jingoistic yet about the President's Cup?
Yeah. No, I'm going to wear my American flag sunglasses, my tie, as I watch this. I'm all in. It's not really fair because the United States just thrashes the international team every year, and what can you do?
What's the difference between the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup? Ryder's against Europe.
The Ryder Cup is Europe, and
is this like the rest of the world that's not Europe?
I can't say. Producer Adam, is that the case? I think it might be. For the most part, yes. That's what he said. Like Rory McIlroy doesn't play here, for instance.
All I know is that my dad will be texting me about the President's Cup. So I should probably look up what the actual format is.
It's too cold for golf in Canada right now. What are we doing?
Like, come on, man. That's what's the word? I'm not even sure.
I'm gonna watch on Peacock, obviously, but it's too cold.
Denny, we are watching as Christian McCaffrey tries to figure out what in the world is wrong with his leg. He went to Germany to quote unquote visit a specialist, which I speculated to Kyle Dvorak meant he actually just got a stem cell injection, which is typically what these players do when they go to Germany. That is not what Christian McCaffrey has said, of course. But mysterious German visit in week 4, not really what you typically want out of the number 1 overall pick in fantasy. It's like, I'm going to Germany this weekend and not playing for your fantasy team. Making a strange situation stranger. I don't even know. Is there anything to even say about this? Is this good, bad?
I think
we even have an opinion on it.
Don't get cute, I would say, and like trade for CMC right now. They're like, I can get him on the cheap. I'm going to trade this valuable player for a guy who might not play this year. I think the assumption has to be that he's going to be out for a long time.
My assumption is now this is like a classic. Do not quote me on this. Usually when an American athlete goes to Germany, this is not a joke, is to get a stem cell treatment that is not legal in the United States. There's been no word at all that is what Christian McCaffrey did. So I'm basing this just on the historical record. But a lot of times as they go to get a treatment, usually I think a somewhat effective treatment. So all I'm saying is there might be a chance, Denny, that he actually comes back after 4 weeks when first eligible. But there has not been a single report to that effect. I'm truly basing this on my own brain. And,
there wouldn't be.
Well, there would be. I mean, maybe not, actually. Yeah. It's like he texts Schefter, like, don't tell him I was getting stem cells. And he's like,
right. I feel like that there's zero chance that it would actually be reported like that. But
so he's visiting a specialist.
You're starting Jordan Mason until further notice. That's what you need to know.
Are you starting Jauan Jennings until further notice? We're talking about unrepeatable game, 11 for 175 and 3 touchdowns. But what is the real Jauan Jennings while the entire 49er skill core is injured, Denny?
Yeah, wow. What a thing there. He was a guy for DFS purposes where you knew immediately in that Rams-Niners game, you go, well, if I didn't have Jennings, I'm not winning any money today. And that's exactly what happened for me, for your boy. Yeah, 175, 3 touchdowns against the Rams. Obviously, the touchdown production is not going to last because touchdowns are just unsticky like that. I will say, though, that Jennings drew a target on 35% of his routes. Anything above 30% is insanely high. So he gets 35%. And his ADOT wasn't insane, it was 13. So I feel like, that part of it makes me bullish on him, seeing good opportunity week in and week out. It was the perfect game script because they had to really keep their foot on the gas the whole time. But I will say that once Debo comes back, and especially Kittle, then it's over. Like Jennings is not going to keep this role. But if you have him and Debo's out and Kittle's out for week 4, I feel like you really should start him. You should find a way to get him in your lineup.
I'm not being glib. I'm not trying to make fun of these guys when I say this, but one thing with Debo and Kittle is they don't usually return earlier than expected. So it could go on another week or two. if I were the 49ers, I would simply target Brandon Ayuk once, by the way. And I know they targeted him, I think, a season high. Just get this guy. Stop with the psychodrama, Kyle Shanahan. Like, seriously, the guy's been in your system half a decade. Like, I don't know if he's ready. Like, this stop. Get him the friggin' ball. Like,
it is a little much.
This is an absurdity. But what Jauan Jennings is running totally uncovered, but you can't scheme Brandon Ayuk. Like, give me a break, man.
I mean, yeah, Ayuk saw 10 targets to 12 targets for Jennings. So, I mean, they basically, they look like they saw like 75% of the team's targets.
Shannon would be like, we loved the looks he was getting. And I'd be like, you also loved losing the game.
The thing about Shanahan's teams choking late, and there's a stat about losing 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. And there's no through line for these losses. It's not, because sometimes he gets way too conservative. Other times he's not conservative enough. Other times it's just unlucky with field goal stuff, like this week with Moody missing that makeable kick. There was a drop by some like fourth or fifth receiver for the Niners late in the game. So I do think it's kind of bad luck, but wow.
There honestly is a through line. I'm not saying he does not think he's going to win. He plays like a tilted video game player. Growing up, you play in an older kid in Madden, you're winning. Like, wow, I did not think I was doing it. And then you start to tense up, like, oh man, I'm not going to make the huge mistake here. And then like you start playing nervous. Shanny honestly coaches like someone who does not expect to win to me. He always does the thing he can't do. And maybe it's different from game to game. Like Shanny's not actually going to punt here, right? Like Shanny knows he doesn't actually have to go for this 4th and 2. And he did it and he got stopped. He plays as if he does not believe he's going to win.
I think what you're saying is he's trying not to lose.
Yes. No. He's the ultimate. He's trying not to lose. Instead, which is when you try not to lose is when you don't believe you can win. Whereas the Chiefs like, oh man, who cares? Like even if we make this huge mistake, we'll just instantly get into field goal range and win. Like the Chiefs like, it doesn't matter. The mistakes don't matter. Where Shanny's the total opposite.
I think a good example of the opposite of that mindset was Washington on Monday night. They were not playing not to lose. They were playing to win the game. They went for it on 4th and 4. I was very impressed. I feel like, look, Commanders, listen, if you're listening, Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, please don't feel like you have something to lose now. You still have nothing to lose. Play like you have nothing to lose, and you can actually do something with this season.
This is what happened with Ron Rivera, where he got the Riverboat Ron moniker when it was, I can't remember if they were out of the playoff race, and he just got really aggressive, and he did all the 4th down decisions to earn the nickname. And then the second they had something to lose, he became the most conservative coach.
And it's hard. It's natural. It's natural for humans to do that, right? And it's something that Dan Campbell has not done, and he's been criticized for that, especially in the NFC title game last year. But I'm telling you, if the Commanders stay that aggressive, they could be very interesting in the NFC East.
See, the 49ers too, they have to get out of this mindset of a closing out game. Like no, dude, just keep trying to score. I really do think the 49ers, they don't behave like they're the Colossus that they are. Like, dude, the Bills don't stop trying till they're up by like 30 points. Like, I'd say that's been a through line for the Bills. A lot of the good Bills team. Like, go full throttle until you're up 30. Just because you're up 17 in the third quarter, don't start running every play. Like, go full throttle and actually like behave like you're trying to annihilate like your little brother or your next door neighbor. This is literally from my childhood. Like where winning was never just enough for me. I did have to score as many points as humanly possible. And just behave as if you are the big bad wolf and you've got the best roster in the NFL. Because Shanny does not behave. He always behaves like he's the underdog. And I don't know if he got into this mentality because when he first started as an offensive coordinator after his Washington days where he was like Browns offensive coordinator and he's the 49 Falcons, it's like he got into like an underdogger mindset that I feel like he cannot shake. Or no, you are not the underdog. You are now your favorite at every game you play. Please start behaving like it. This is my Shanny rant of the day.
I like it. I hope he's listening.
I know he is. He listens to every show. So I hate giving him these tough truths. But
somebody has to.
Somebody has to start Mark Andrews, Denny, after he caught 0 balls against the Cowboys. Hasn't done anything at all through 3 games. Panic level. He's in the regression files. Every bad player is in the regression files, of course, because by definition, they are due to regress. What is the case for Mark Andrews, hopefully regressing heading into week 4?
Yeah, so Mark Andrews ran 6 routes against Dallas. And you might say, oh, he was hurt and they took him out in garbage time. But here's the thing about that. Oh, man, I lost it. I had it all set up.
Oh, wow.
Dang it.
Not much of a payoff there.
Here's the payoff. We'll just edit that out. So 6 routes constituted an almost 40% target route share. 40%. Because the Ravens were 19% below their expected dropback rate against the Cowboys. We're talking like, Terry Bradshaw Steelers situation here. The Ravens ran the ball 44 times against Jerry's team. It was a total demolition. Now, I don't think you can start Andrews going forward. And I think that you'd be much better off starting Conk Daddy, for instance. I know you are literally gonna cut my mic, but Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I will cut your mic. Conk Daddy, you had me. Hunter Henry. Like clearly you're starting to Conk Daddy.
I report both sides. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hunter Henry, he might not even catch another pass the rest of his career.
I'm so mad that you think Hunter Henry is not going to be a thing ever. So here, okay. So Isaiah Likely ran more routes, saw more targets against the Cowboys. So here's the thing, and I wrote about this in the regression files. Way too much about the Ravens offense, but the Ravens were running a really high clip of what are called run pass options, RPO, right? And in that scenario, Lamar either hands it to Derrick Henry or throws it, right? So those were largely turned into read options against the Cowboys, where there was no pass option in a read option, right? So you either hand it to Henry or you keep it as Lamar and you go. This is awesome for Henry and Lamar, fantasy-wise. But if this holds, and it could be a 1 week blip, it could be that they said we're just going to hammer these guys on the ground, no mercy. There's no reason to throw the ball here because the Cowboys are so inept against the run. That could be the case. But they had a lot of success, Pat. 150 plus yards before contact against the Cowboys. If this holds over, if this continues into week 4, 5, 6, it's a major problem for all the pass catchers in Baltimore.
I'll say they had success until they didn't, where they kind of caught 49ers disease and they were behaving as if the game was over. And the Cowboys almost came back and tied it. Another problem with John Harbaugh, always behaves as if he's like the underdog. Like, no, dude, like you're the Ravens. Like, please stop blowing every single second half lead that you have. And just a little curious, you and Kyle Dvorak last week were telling me Derrick Henry's career was over. And
wait a sec. No. Here's I appreciate you bringing that up, and thank you to everyone on the X platform for reminding me that I dared to say that Derrick Henry wasn't great. The thing is, I looked into it, and Derrick Henry, all of his peripheral stuff is exactly the same as it's always been.
Because he's always been elite.
He's a machine, and he'll never get old. He'll play until he's 70. But I was saying that the Ravens felt obliged to base their offense around him, which I don't think has been a good idea. At the end of our conversation, I said, obviously Henry will go for 202.
You did, but
the Cowboys. Sure.
We edited that out of the show, though.
It was I went too long.
Yeah, we took it out. Yeah, we did remove that actually.
So yeah, look, this is just a warning. If Todd Monken likes the taste that he got against the Cowboys and says, oh baby, we found something, then Zay Flowers, Andrews, Likely, Bateman, it is all going to be very tough for them to get there.
It'll be really interesting to see what the Ravens do against the Bills on Sunday Night Football this week. Thursday Night Football, not on NBC. I'll still be watching on Bezos Vision. Lower wattage game this week, Giants and Cowboys. So we're going to talk about them real quick heading into Thursday. Daniel Jones, he's looked whatever. He's looked usable for 2 games. Corporate says we have to talk about him. Daniel Jones forcing his way. I said the keeper mix. I meant the streamer mix, of course, Denny, on the show sheet. Is he working his way into the streamer mix? Because since he does have one real receiver now, or this is still Daniel Jones, like touch a different hot stove.
Yeah. I mean, look, this week with Geno and Dalton available on a lot of waiver wires. I know not in your league. I know Andy Dalton was taken as the QB7 in your league, But I don't really see a reason to like jam Daniel Jones into your lineup. Now, super flex wise, I think you could do a lot worse. The thing though about the Dallas defense is that, as we saw last week, they are an extreme run funnel, right? And it's not just because their rush defense is so bad, but because per the metrics, their pass defense is pretty good. And so I don't think that the Giants are going to be balanced or certainly not pass heavy against Dallas. I will say
so we could get a dual threat Daniel Jones game though on Thursday night.
We could just to accentuate like how bad the Cowboys are against the run. And obviously this is a Devin Singletary post. But the Cowboys are giving up the second highest rush yards before contact. And only the Eagles have been worse in that category. And at 28%, the Cowboys have the lowest stuff rate against the run. 28%. Like it's like no one is even like below like 40% this year. So it's that bad. And Devin Singletary, again, the Zoomers say he's boring. The millennials know that he's useful. He's going to be good again.
Devin Singletary, unfortunately, in the top 20 for my running backs. Real quick, I was 45.5 total right now for Giants Cowboys. You know how I know fantasy football and offense is over as we know it, Denny? Chiefs Chargers has a game total below 40. Like, I don't care how injured a team is, a game that Patrick Mahomes is playing in, if it ever goes before 40, you know the whole project is over. The project is over. Fantasy football is winding down. The NFL is winding down because Patrick Mahomes having a total under 40 is the death of something beautiful.
Fantasy football is winding down. Hit rotoworld.com for your later.
Something beautiful has died, Denny.
Yeah, no, that's ugly. It's ugly. And by the way, if Taylor Heineke starts, you gotta start the Kansas City defense. That's
although no, you don't. He won't commit any turnovers. So there's just a run at 72 times.
No, but we're talking double-digit sacks, I think.
I don't know if he drops back even one time. Real quick on the Cowboys, we talked about Daniel Jones. Any updates in the battle that will not end, but also never even began between Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle?
No. I mean, it's
terrible. It's pretty much.
They're all so bad. I mean, Dowdle continues to run like a pretty good amount of routes, but man, who cares? It's just so hideous. Like, I feel like you could get like an RB2. Oh, like Bucky Irving is way more fantasy relevant than any of these guys, and Bucky Irving is the RB2 in his own backfield.
Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, I think are both moving ahead. Maybe even Samaje Perine, to be honest. Like, it's getting grim. Where the Cowboys keep falling, and other dudes, they might only touch the ball 7 or 8 times, keep rising above them. It's just bleak.
I wanted to ask you this, and I'm going to completely throw you a curveball. But with Braylon Allen's emergence, does Breece Hall still have a path to RB1 overall?
He does, because, he's yet to receive fewer than 20 touches this season. And what Braylon Allen, I think, is really about, at least for now, maybe Mike Williams will get healthier. Maybe Allen Lazard is actually back. But I think it's an acknowledgement that the Jets don't have passing game weapons. And Aaron Rodgers in his press conference has been talking about how, listen, every team's bracketing Garrett Wilson. So they're taking away the only viable pass game option. Mike Williams maybe still rehabbing. Tyler Conklin is Tyler Conklin. Allen Lazard is Allen Lazard. And just an acknowledgement that to get any hope of chunk gains, they're going to have to get unconventional, and that might be putting 2 running backs in the field at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it's more about the pass catchers than it is about Breece Hall. And I do think I agree with the take that is probably removed because RB1 overall ceiling, Breece Hall, but I have seen no reason to drop him out of the top 5 at running back. I'll say that.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, for sure. I think Breece Hall with enough touchdown luck does have a path to RB1 overall. What?
Yeah, I guess so. Still, he still does.
Yeah, but
it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Right. I think it's become way tougher because the Jets really like Braylon Allen. Aaron Rodgers, importantly, likes Braylon Allen.
He loves him. Yeah.
And also this idea, I've heard this idea, well, you got to get them on the field at the same time. And that may be true, but that's not happening. Okay. They were on the field at the same time at 7% of the offensive snaps in week 3. So that whole thing, that's not happening.
I mean, 7% is not nothing.
But here's the thing. Breece Hall, I want to say Bryce 50 times. Breece Hall If he was dominating pass routes and targets out of the backfield, I would be much more confident in his upside case. But he's not. He's not. Allen is involved in that part of the game too. That's an issue.
The issue is Braylon Allen is kind of a threat on every front. Where like between the tackles work, pass catching work, and maybe even goal line work. For now, though, I think it's just more about the Jets pass catchers. And like this, if you view each play through the lens of who's going to give us a quality touch this play, Braylon Allen's odds are higher than most of the pass catchers.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's about, and not maybe about like a true committee. But I mean, it's very curious, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure.
We're keeping an eye on everything as we head into week 4. That's all of our articles, the regression files, the funnel report. My ranking is coming out later this week, Sunday Aftermath, where I break down week 3. The week 3 preview show on Thursday with Kyle Dvorchak. Kyle and I broke down waivers last night in a different podcast. Denny doing a Q&A later this week. Stuff to the gills at rotoworld.com. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in 2 days.